So let's move on to question number 3. How do you transition from a verbal intermediary to the next step? My daughter will use me to answer another adult's question when we are out in the community, but she won't directly answer the adult. How do you make that transition? What's the next step on getting her to speak directly to them?
Great question. This is a detailed question. And so I want the family to kind of read one of the resources called the Transitional Stage of Communication, the Missing Link, for an overview of the missing link. I'd like this family to look at the social communication bridge and realize the different stages of social communication, 0 being non communicative, stage 1 being nonverbal, stage 2 being verbal intermediary sounds, augmentative devices, the transitional stage, or stage 3 being verbal, quiet 1 or 2 words, to elaborative, initiative, and expressive. So understanding that visual. For most children, we will use a bridge. We will draw the child pointing, we'll draw the child telling their parent, we'll draw the child using words. For far majority, as we train parents to use a forced choice question and use visuals, so they hear the choice as the last option is correct, and they see the visual. So let's give the example of giving an order. The child has their visual menu, so that's the visual, and the parent may ask a choice. So rather than saying to the waiter, when the waiter says, "What do you want?" So rather than the parent answering for the child, or for the parents to say, "Tell that person," the parents will ask, "Do you want nuggets or pizza?" The right answer being pizza, the child sees it. No answer, nuggets or pizza, tell me. And they have to lean in. Some children, just by the use of, "Do you want nuggets or pizza?" will slowly, naturally turn to their parent and say pizza. So that is the common, and that's the way that most children do that, and they will tell the parent. As the parent continues to do that over and over and over, the child gets louder and louder to the point where the child is heard. Once the child is heard, then the child gets verbal points or checks off the verbal stage on that bridge. For children that don't, and they continuously turn to their parents, pull them in, we can break up the transitional stage into different stages. So it's fist length, half an arm, full arm. They might be able to use different, like a measuring kind of tape, or they will use popsicle sticks if they're young. But again, kids may use fist length, half an arm, full arm, and they check off how far. And we use that in treatment. And the child sees how far. Now, these have to be contrived opportunities. So if it's going to a restaurant, doing a scavenger hunt, or looking for things in a store, if they're meeting with an aunt or an uncle, and they're playing these question answer games, for example, using a parent as an intermediary where the child sees where they are on that bridge as working towards younger children, the games to cross the bridge, and the child, or for older kids, the goal, and working to get their voice louder. Typically, 9 times out of 10, as parents change their way of questioning, the child naturally gets desensitized, picking quieter, smaller, or avoiding loud, large, lots of people environments, and practicing the games and the goals in very predictable, kind of structured ways. The child starts to get used to doing that, and their voice gets louder. That if the parent asks the choice question and the child answers and they get loud enough, but the parents aren't sure if the other person heard, the parents want to use the "Did you get that?" goal of turning to the waiter. "Did you get that?" If the waiter goes, "Yep, I got it," the child gets verbal points. If that aunt or an uncle, the same thing. It could be playing games, that the question answer game, and the parents aren't sure if that aunt or uncle heard. The parent goes, "Did you get that?" And the aunt or uncle goes, "No, I didn't." The parent repeats it. So for the far majority, playing the game or doing the goal where the child is aware of it will help with the consistency. And I think that's what I see. No, I don't think, I know. This is what I see is lacking in most treatments. So when we see families at the Smart Center, what we see is that they don't have concrete goals. They don't have concrete games. Parents don't have concrete parent goals. So what happens is it's hit or miss. And so these children don't make the steady, consistent progress. That's
Mm.
why game charts, goal charts, parent education, their own goal charts, to kind of know what they're working on to help with that progression, and the child's awareness is very important. So again, you can hear me talking about lots of different ways to progress across the social communication bridge without relying on the intermediary. And often it's just the child's voice gets louder and we teach others to repeat with that eye contact. So even if the child is very quiet and the child answers, we train teachers, aunts and uncles, and so forth to repeat with that eye contact. So if you see what I mean? So let's say they're working with their aunt or an uncle and give your, what's your favorite? Do you like questions or whatever questions they're using? We train the parents to educate others on repeating with that eye contact. So the child realizes, oh, they heard me and it's no big deal, rather than, oh, you talked, and making a big deal out of it. So it's how we train others to respond as the child is making that progress. So there's lots of ways to utilize the verbal intermediary and transition to direct speech to others. It's based on that child's unique needs. And I just shared some common ways that need to be tweaked, obviously, for each child. And we tweak the goals as the child is moving along.
Got it. Yeah, it seems like this is a key step in treatment is going from verbal intermediary to being able to speak directly to an
Not
adult or somebody
necessarily.
else.
Yeah, not necessarily. Younger children, just by the way parents ask a question, just by the way teachers ask a question, can progress that child into verbal.
Mm,
Because if you ask an open-ended, thought-provoking question, why do you want that? Tell me what the book was about. Many kids aren't going to answer this question, but if we train others, parents, teachers, etc., to ask questions a certain way, and we have a document called About My Child, where we have really common ways that others should question, engage the child through choice questions, through direct questions, through write and read, through visuals, the child will make the progress. But it's how you integrate it, like that unique recipe for that child of where you emphasize various strategies and not. And that's where understanding the child is really important because there's no one size fits all treatment there's at all. So I really think it's really important that if a parent is concerned that a child has selective mutism, that they get an evaluation from a licensed professional who understands SM. Don't mess around. Go to a licensed professional that gets it, that can really understand your child to develop a step-by-step treatment plan. And verbal intermediary is one step. And
okay.
not to add, a whole nother Pandora's box here of talking about, but there's many teens, for example, that don't use an intermediary a lot because they can speak. It's how you question, when you question, where you question, and so forth. So the verbal intermediary is used as a common way to bring them into social communication, children in different settings, but it's not used for every child. It's really based on that child's unique needs and if that is a proper strategy.
Awesome.